Welcome to the Switchblade Sisters Social Club. Yet another true crime podcast where two middle-aged friends exploit their worst fears for your entertainment. You're welcome.
For more information, find us on Instagram and Facebook or check out our website at www.switchbladesisterssocialclub.com. Audience discretion advised.
Hi, this is Dee, and here is Emma.
Hi!
Ready for round two?
I think so.
Okay,
I hope so.
I think you are. So, those of you that have been following this epic saga that is our lives will know that Emma is also known as Prosecco Emma when she's had too much Prosecco. So I found something, it came up in one of my eBay searches, and I had to get it for her. And she's wearing it today. It's a jumper.
You're going to make me show my boobs, but hang on. Oh, I need to move my hair as well.
Your mermaid hair. Prosecco made me do it.
And it usually does, to be fair.
I remember I was telling a story to someone recently and I was like, yeah, we were going to be good. And then Prosecco happened and blah, blah, blah. And he was like, I like how you make it sound like Prosecco was a thing that happened to you that you had no control over, like it rained. And I was like, sometimes it feels like that. Prosecco just comes into our lives.
To be fair, that's normally you for me. I'll be like, Dee made me do it.
I'm like incredibly good at making people drink when they don't really want to, get tattooed when they don't really want to, and just generally do things that they don't really want to. Yeah. But I feel like I don't use my powers for evil.
Thank God, because then the world would be in trouble.
I mean, sometimes I'm misguided, but mainly it's with the aim to make sure everyone has fun. Right?
Yes, and we do. We always have fun.
Good. Well, so as we said, for the first 3 episodes of the season, I'm going to be presenting cases to Emma so she can get into her stride, get her groove on. And then we're going to go back to the previous formula of alternating telling stories to each other, telling these different cases to each other. And this one I'm super excited about because it includes a bunch of things that are like my favorite things. It's old-timey. It's a female killer.
Oh.
It's local to us.
Oh.
And it includes Sir David Attenborough.
Random, but okay.
What more can you want from a story?
That is true.
And this is a Victorian, maybe, I've put in brackets because I don't really know the dates of Victorian England. A Victorian, maybe, murder in Richmond. So this is, I was explaining, this is the weird thing about how podcasting works, is that time doesn't work chronologically anymore. And by coincidence, yesterday, you and I, Emma, we went for dinner in Richmond. And I knew I was recording this case with you today. And I found some of the locations in Richmond, and I really wanted us to take pictures of them, but I didn't want to tell you the case that I was doing, anything about it. So I was like, Emma, we're just going to go take some photos at some random locations. Don't ask me questions. Just do it. Don't be too smiley because it is for the podcast. So I think you can tell that it's not going to be a happy, happy, joy story. And so we did that yesterday. So I've got some pictures of some of the locations that pop up in this case with you, even though you didn't know it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, yes, I was there. I can confirm. I mean, I did get worried that we were going to get done for stalking out a place before robbing it, but yeah.
I mean, if we were going to rob it, we wouldn't have dressed up so cute and so noticeable.
That is also a good point.
But I just couldn't miss the opportunity that we were going to be so close to these places and not get some shots. So they will be on our socials, and I'm going to share them in this podcast episode for those of you watching the video, which you can do so on YouTube. All of our podcast episodes are pretty much unedited on YouTube, or if you're just listening to the audio, I edit out a lot of our ums and some of the really, really stupid shit that we say. So this is the story of Kate Webster and the Richmond murder. So my sources will all be listed in the show notes, but it's mainly from a book called Kate Webster, The Richmond Murder, and then also the University of Wikipedia, and then also some podcast episodes, true crime podcast episodes on Kate Webster. And there are 3 separate podcasts that I think are absolutely amazing anyways. And I've listened to a couple of other episodes on their different cases, and so they are genuinely amazing, and they've all done an episode on Kate Webster. So we've got historical true crime, the criminal makeup, and macabre London. So I also go on a few tangents on this one, but I think they're interesting because that is
I'm sure they are.
how my ADHD brain works. So I went on little separate tangents, sidebars, and then the information was totally irrelevant, but also too interesting not to share. So I'm going to take you back to Killane in County Wexford in Ireland, which is in the south of Ireland, like kind of towards Cork in the south. Kate Webster was born Catherine Jewel Thorne, which I thought was a very unusual name for the 1800s in Ireland. So I went back and checked, and I was actually looking at the wrong Kate Webster. The one I was accidentally looking at was an American boogie-woogie pianist. That's my bad.
Boogie woogie what?
Exactly. So then I had to find out what the hell is boogie-woogie.
Yeah.
It's a genre of blues, and it's a genre of blues popular in the 1920s. So that is the playlist that I listened to while doing the research. If you don't know, if you can't picture it, it's a lot of Tutti Frutti, Little Richard type stuff. Also lots of Jerry Lee Lewis, but I didn't really want to even say his name because he might be on the fucking podcast because he is recently deceased, but also a very horrible man, allegedly. So let's go back to the actual Kate Webster I meant to research. It was kind of like the time I covered the wrong Perth serial killer, but whatever.
That was still a good story, though. It was still good, though.
Thank you. Actually, the Boogie Woogie Kate Webster, she was on the playlist, the Boogie Woogie Spotify playlist, and she's got a song called Two-Fisted Mama.
Nice.
Which is kind of my new girl crush. So
does that need to go on the divorce playlist?
It definitely does, and I will share the link to that playlist that I listened to on our socials because it was really good. So or maybe I'll make a new one without Jerry Lee Lewis because I don't feel like promoting his shit. So the Kate Webster that we are talking about was actually born Kate Lawler, which is kind of ironic because she's now on a true crime podcast, so law was not her thing. She was born in County Wexford in 1849. There's not much information about her early life, and a lot of the information kind of contradicts itself. So, I mean, we're talking rural Ireland, 1850s and 60s, you know? She claimed she was married to a sea captain called Webster, but he and all of her children died, which is possible. And I can totally understand why you do this because a widow is left alone a bit and lets to live on her own a bit more than a single woman, a spinster. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So at the time, I can totally imagine why if she didn't want to get married, she would just pretend she was a widow, because then she can get married again if she wants to, but there's less pressure on her from society to be like, anyway.
Fuck society.
Fuck society. Damn the man. And you know what? It is possible that she got married and all her children died because it was not easy and she wasn't born into money, so it's possible. But before all this, she had turned to larceny. Emma, what does larceny mean?
Theft, isn't it?
Yeah. So is that just what it is? Theft?
I think so. I feel like I need to Google it before I make a tit of myself.
I know it's some kind of theft, but like, how is it different from like, I suppose a robbery is from a house. What is larceny? Theft of personal property. Larceny was replaced by as a statutory crime by theft. So yeah, it's the old word for theft.
Okay. Yeah.
And presumably not from, I don't know, maybe from a house. I don't know. So she got done for larceny at age 15. And again, she was brought up on hard times, so I don't want to judge her too much on that. There's not very much information. I mean, if it's a fucking Jean Valjean situation where she stole a loaf of bread because she was starving, you know, I'm okay with that. But she went to jail. When she came out, she crossed over to England in 1867. She ended up in Liverpool, where she was yet again convicted of crimes and imprisoned. She was released again in 1872 and got pregnant and had a son, John Webster. The father's identity remained unknown. She told various stories to different people, naming at least 3 different men as the potential father. And it's becoming clear now, doing all this research, that she is definitely charismatic. She's definitely a storyteller. She must come across, if not likable, then definitely believable and enigmatic or something, because, you know, she's coming out with a lot of weird shit and people seem to be believing it or not caring, at least that she's, I don't know. She moved around a lot. She used different aliases. She used her married name in quotation marks because we're not sure if she was married, Webster, her maiden name, Lawler. She also used Strong, which was one of the men that she identified as a potential father of her child. Webb, Gibbs, Gibbons. She was using loads of different identities. And for a little while, she ended up in Hammersmith in London in 1973, an area that both of us are familiar with because we lived nearby.
Wait, 1973 or 1873?
1873.
I was like, how she
She lived to be 100 before she even got to a crime. Yeah.
Wait, is that not chocolate wine?
Chocolate wine.
It is chocolate wine.
Of course
Nice.
it is. Rubis still waiting for her phone call. Endorsements. So May 1875, she was arrested again while she was living in Teddington, which is also super close to us now. Again for larceny. Guess how many separate larceny charges she was convicted of?
I mean, it sounds like it's getting on for like 15, 20 by now.
Well, this is on the one incident. So this one time she got caught. 36 charges of larceny.
Jesus.
Now, I don't know what that means, whether she stole 36 items, like she went to a supermarket and took 36 things, or she was
probably back in those days, because they didn't have supermarkets and there wouldn't have been a lot of places you could go unless, I mean, I suppose you could from someone's house, but yeah.
I don't know. So, or whether she was done for stealing on 36 different occasions, I'm not sure. But in any case, she was sentenced to 18 months in Wandsworth Prison. Soon after she came out, she got done for larceny again and served another 12 months. If you're wondering where her kid was during this time, she had a very dear friend who, whenever she did jail time, would look after her son, John. This friend was called Sarah Crease. And I've made a little note here in my notes that says, FYI, if you ever do jail time, I will look after your pups.
Oh, thank you. But what about the fact that Lola hates them?
I'll figure something out. I will make sure. I don't want you to worry about it. I'll figure something out. Do you know what I mean?
And likewise, I would do the same for you. No questions asked.
But also, let's not do jail time. It doesn't sound fun.
No, but then also, to be fair, if you were done for something, I'd probably be with you doing it as well. So.
Yeah, you'd probably have a lesser sentence to serve as an accessory, whereas I would have to do more time for instigating.
We need to figure this out because that's not going to work.
Okay, we have to commit all our crimes separately just so that we've got the sorted.
All right, good to know.
Yeah, so. This led me on to another sidebar because I was like, I wonder what the different terms are for serving time, you know, because I know porridge is one of them. And that's all that I could think of. So I Googled terms for serving time. This was super fun. It came up from I found a website called Community Law Firm, and it's a law firm that has a full page of prison slang. So it's not
We
just
know who they are representing then, don't we?
yeah. I don't know whether it's like here's a useful guide, a glossary
Yeah,
for employers, or
it's like we
what,
do,
or
employee handbooks. No, prison
yeah,
handbook.
or like for the family to help them adapt to having, I don't know, but
Yeah. I mean, it's probably super helpful. I know we're laughing, but it probably is super helpful.
yeah, useful. It's a different language. If anyone's seen like The Wire, there are terms I don't fucking understand and had to Google. So thank you, community law firm. What I'm going to do is say the term, and I want you to guess what it means.
Oh my God, I literally have no idea. Okay.
No, you won't. Some of them are kind of obvious, or definitely after I explain it, you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And others are
Okay.
like, how the fuck? Okay, bats.
Bats, as in BATS.
Yeah, not actual bats, because weirdly, surprisingly, they don't give out bats to prisoners.
They don't bite their heads off or anything.
No, because I was
Bats.
thinking baseball bats.
Yeah.
So it means cigarettes. Backdoor parole.
I mean, my
Dying.
mind is going
Yeah.
everywhere.
No, it's nothing to do with anal. It's dying while in prison. So it's getting parole out the back door.
Oh.
I've got a few, so I'm gonna go through them fast.
Okay.
Binky. Due to the difficulty of smuggling syringes into prison, a binky is a homemade syringe that is made out of an eyedropper, a pen shaft, and a guitar string.
No.
Catching a ride is getting high off of a friend's drugs.
Okay.
Cell warrior. Think of like a keyboard warrior.
Oh, someone that would just shout from their cells and not do
Yeah.
anything about it.
An inmate who acts like a tough guy when locked in his cell, but is a coward face to face. Chin check. This is punching an inmate in the jaw to see if he'll fight back. Okay, some of them are awful. Chomo. Short for a child molester. Chomo.
Oh.
Also diaper sniper.
Oh.
Dinner and a show. Going back like lighthearted. Dinner
Okay.
and a show is when inmates eat in the food hall and watch other inmates fight and get pepper sprayed by prison staff.
Which is a firearm, as we learned.
We learned that pepper spray in this country, the UK, is a firearm, is counted as a firearm and is illegal. So don't tell police officers to their face that you have pepper spray, Emma, allegedly.
Allegedly. Yeah, so it's basically the same as having a gun, having pepper spray.
Ugh, make it safer for women then. All right,
Yeah.
so if you're dotted up, let me give you a clue. You and I are dotted up. It's a term for having tattoos.
Oh, okay. Yeah, oh, yeah, that makes sense.
I like that term, dotted up. Want to get dotted up?
Yeah.
I'm going to incorporate that one in my lexicon. Frequent flyers. Someone
Is that someone that goes out and comes back?
Yeah, someone who's regularly incarcerated. Gunning. Masturbating in front of a correctional officer. And that reminded me of, I think I told you this, but a friend was telling us, hello, Pappy, Barney. Friend was telling us some terms for masturbating when I was in Leeds at Handfest the other day. And the two that stuck with me, I'd heard of this one, burping the worm.
Oh, yeah.
But the one that made me laugh, but also throw up in my mouth a bit and have to swallow it back down again, was praying for milk.
Just wrong on every level.
Yeah. Keister as a verb. Keister. If you keister something.
I mean, that sounds like you're attacking somebody with a key, but they wouldn't have keys.
Keister, to smuggle contraband inside one's anus.
Oh, good. Okay.
These two made me laugh. Two terms. Permanent pocket or prison pocket.
Oh, I've heard this one, but I can't remember what it is.
Think of keister, the verb.
Yeah.
It's the term for a person's anus. Your permanent pocket or your prison pocket.
I mean, yeah, let's never, ever go to prison, please.
No, we would just not be good. Time to feed the warden. This one is like the equivalent of dropping the kids off at the pool. And then the final one, this one is another one I'm going to incorporate in my everyday words, and especially feel like us dating, this one is appropriate. Wolf tickets.
Tickets.
Wolf tickets are false promises. So don't give me no wolf tickets, sir.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, I like that. That's a good one.
I like that one too. So anyways, if you are wondering how the hell we got here, it's because we're talking about how Kate Webster's friend Sarah Creese used to look after her son whenever she would do jail time, which seemed to be every fucking 5 minutes, right? And it was through Sarah Creese, who worked as domestic help in someone's house, that she met someone called Julia Martha Thomas, who was looking for like a housekeeper, home help, domestic help type person. And Julia Martha Thomas lived at 2 Mayfield cottages on Park Road. Does that ring a bell, Emma?
Yeah, that's where we were yesterday.
That was where we were yesterday.
Was it 2? I thought it was 9.
So it's 2 Mayfield cottages.
Oh, was that the pub?
No, which is at that row of cottages is number 2. It is Mayfield Cottages on Park Road. So it was number 2 of the cottages, but number 9-ish of the road. Just to confuse everything.
Of course.
So here is the place that Emma and I went to take pictures. It was gorgeous, wasn't it? It almost looked like plantation-y. It was super cute. Had this
Very
like
cute
fence. It was painted this like cornflower blue type color, right? And that was the house next door when I wasn't sure exactly what house it was. Sorry if this is your house. But look how fucking cute it is. And so basically it's the bit on the left that is was Julia Thomas's house. So I'll stop sharing that. And oh no, I will go back to sharing it because we took a little super cute picture of us. Us being cute in front of the murder house.
Oh, you showed the one smiling. You told me not to smile.
Oh, sorry. And then that I told them I don't smile. In your defense, you had no idea why we were taking pictures outside of this cute house. So I told you this will make sense later. I told you this will make sense later, but don't smile so much. All right. So here we are outside of the murder house, being looky-loos, sorry. But it's for research purposes. So yeah, I took Emma to see the house. Julia Thomas was a 50-something-year-old widow who was struggling to manage her finances and the logistics and just general adulting. So I fucking feel you, Julia. Feel you. She was a former school teacher and she was actually widowed twice. And surprisingly, she's not the perpetrator in this story, because I was like, hang on a minute, Black widow? Her second husband had died in 1873, so it had been a few years since he died at this point. Julia was described as well-dressed and small, which I imagine at the time was like the highest of compliments, right? She was deemed as eccentric, but that's probably because she didn't live with a man, you know? Scandaloso. She had status in Richmond, which has always been a bit la-di-da, high society kind of place. It still is, you know, like very yummy mummy, fancy, nice, red corduroy type place, right? But she wasn't as wealthy as she pretended to be, and as her clothes and her jewelry made out. But she wanted to get hired help because she thought that would increase the appearance of her status. And also she didn't want to have to fucking do shit for herself, which I totally get. That bit I get.
Yeah.
The status bit, who fucking cares? But
Yeah.
if I could have someone just do all my shit for me, the dream. She was known to be difficult to work with, though, and to work for, and she was described as having an excitable personality, but like kind of in a way that like she got angry quickly and, you know, sulky and stuff like that. So not the dream to work with, but Kate obviously didn't have a huge amount of options. So Kate, who was 20-ish years younger than Julia Thomas, came to work with her. And obviously for a while, it's a very mutually beneficial relationship. Kate gets to live in that nice house. She has employment, you know, and Julia has someone who's very savvy. I mean, Kate is savvy, if nothing less, who can do all her cleaning, do all her sorting out her shit, manage the household, etc., etc. But I think the problem is they were both characters and living in quite a small house together. And so rather than like becoming friends, the tension just escalated and escalated between them. I've actually got not pictures, but like drawings of the two of them. So I'm gonna bring that up because I always like a visual. You know, whenever I listen to a podcast about a case, while I'm listening, I'm Googling what the people involved look like. So that's Kate Webster on the left and Julia Thomas, the widow, who's 20 years older, on the right. Emma, I want to read something for me. This is what Kate Webster first thought about her new employer, Julia Thomas. Hang on, let me share the screen. All right, can you see that? Can you read that for me?
Yeah. Okay. At first, I thought her a nice old lady, but I found her very trying, and she used to do many things to annoy me during my work. When I had finished my work in my rooms, she used to go over it again after me and point out places where she said I did not clean, showing evidence of a nasty spirit towards me.
A nasty spirit towards me is a line, isn't it? I'm going to use that as well. She's showing a nasty spirit towards me, meaning she's being a fucking dick.
Yeah.
So, by the way, you know, I told you Julia Thomas was described as small. Kate Webster is described as tall at 5'5", Emma. We are tall.
We're tall.
By Victorian standards.
And you're slightly taller than me, so you're even taller.
I'm at least half an inch taller than you, so I'm like Amazonian according to Victorian standards. So you could tell they're clearly not like getting along. It seems like Julia Thomas is like micromanaging, nitpicky type boss, and you know, it's getting unpleasant. And they live together as well. So you can imagine having a nightmare boss or a nightmare employee and then having to live with them as well. Oh,
yeah.
Can't imagine anything worse. It's like Below Deck. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but like just that idea of like living and working together with your employees, your boss, and all of this. Oh,
in that small confined area.
Exactly. So eventually Julia fires Kate Webster. Surprise, surprise. But they had agreed that she could stay on for an extra couple of days. But then when Kate was late back from her half day off, she got one half day off a week on Sunday, on the 2nd of March, 1879. It made Julia late for her evening service at church. So Julia was pissed off. And when she came back from church that night at 9 p.m., they started an argument. Neighbors reported hearing a single thud in this quiet road in Richmond. They didn't understand what that thud was, and they kind of just carried on with their day because it was just that one sound and then nothing. But I am going to ask you again to read a thing This is Kate Webster confessing after the fact what had happened.
Uh-oh. Okay. Mrs. Thomas came in and went upstairs. I went up after her and we had an argument which ripened into a quarrel. And in the height of my anger and rage, I threw her from the top of the stairs to the ground floor. She had a heavy fall and I became agitated at what had occurred, lost all control of myself, and to prevent her screaming and getting me into trouble, I caught her by the throat, and in the struggle she was choked and I threw her on the floor. Okay.
I mean, that escalated real fast. Okay, first, there's a couple of, I'm going to dissect this a little bit. Argument, which ripened into a quarrel. So a quarrel is worse than an argument. Then she throws her down the motherfucking stairs, which made her agitated. So she choked her.
Yeah, I just thrown you down the stairs, but I'm so agitated by those fucking stairs being there. Like, how dare they? How dare they?
And we talked the other day about, I think on the bonus episode, about how difficult it is actually to choke someone to death by accident. So this wasn't a case of just choking her a bit to stop her screaming. She would have known this woman was dying. So yeah, that's what Kate later confessed had happened. So, but then Kate Webster, what do you think she does after this? She's just killed her employer. Do you think she goes to the police and confesses, or?
No, no, definitely not.
You're right. She goes about trying to cover up her crime and dispose of the body. So again, this is the handy thing of having the confession, right? Is we've got like literally what this person has said that they've done way back in the 1800s. So final thing I'm going to make you read.
What? I determined to do away with the body as best I could. I chopped the head from the body with the assistance of a razor, which I used to cut through the flesh afterwards. I also used the meat saw and the carving knife to cut the body up with. Sorry. I prepared the copper with water to boil the body to prevent identity, and as soon as I had succeeded in cutting it up, I placed it in the copper and boiled it. I assume the copper is like a bowl or something.
It's like a copper pot, basically. Imagine cooking a stew. So she's basically boiling off all the fat and the skin.
I opened the stomach with a carving knife and burned up as much of the parts as I could. Oh, vile. Okay.
Right? That's a lot. It's a lot there. So she basically, in summary, dismembered her, boiled up all of the bits of her body, boiling away.
Sorry, I've just twigged that all happened in that house that you made me stand in front of yesterday.
This is why I didn't want to take a picture of you being too happy, happy, smiley, joy, joy.
Yeah. Imagine living in that house now.
We'll come to that.
Okay.
We're going to do a bit of who lives in a house like this.
David, it's over to you.
Yes. Well, speaking of David's, I kind of already mentioned, so.
Oh, yeah.
So if you were a proper detectorist out there, you would put two and two together. So
David Attenborough does not live in that house now.
Well,
surely.
He did for a bit, or he owned it for a bit, but we'll get onto that.
Okay.
So, but yeah, all of that happened at that super cute house that we took pictures of in front. I mean, it's fucking gorgeous, but
maybe it's one we could actually afford because that happened.
We'll talk about that later also. But me and my sister have talked previously about whether we could live in a murder house. And I
don't think I could.
Yeah, I think even if someone gave me that fucking gorgeous house in the most perfect location in Richmond, the most gorgeous area, whatever, I would take it, but I would rent it out or sell it. I couldn't.
You would, wouldn't you?
I don't think
I'd be so scared. Anything weird that happened, and like, I think we've had this conversation, but like, I believe that spirits and stuff's happened to me in the past, which I'm sure we could do a podcast show on. But so if anything like untoward, anything like weird, I would just feel a nasty presence no matter what. Like I would just, yeah, no,
I would at the
absolutely
very
not.
least freak myself out and not be able to be alone there. I'm putting my hair up because it's fucking. I told Emma, now that she's a podcaster, I told her about podcaster ear, which is basically when you wear your headphones and your ears get so sweaty. When you finish recording, you take them off and you're like, ew, sweaty ears. I didn't even know I sweat through my ears.
Yeah, never had sweaty ears before.
Never before. And yet it's like when I started skating and I was like, and you take off your knee pads and you're like, wow, I've got sweaty knees. Didn't even know that I could sweat through them. So, okay, so back to Kate and the gorgeous house, and that we now know is a
The
murder house.
dismemberment. Yeah.
She packaged up the remains. She put them in a Gladstone bag, which I had to Google, but it's kind of like, imagine a kind of Victorian doctor's bag, you know, like leather, stiff leather
Okay.
bag, right? And a wooden bonnet box, which I thought, how Victorian, wooden bonnet box, right? She managed to fit all of the body in there except for one foot and the head.
Oh.
They were packaged separately. She buried the head in the stables of the nearby pub, which used to be a pub really close by called the Hole in the Wall, which is why when we went to that house, I was like, Emma, have a look around. Tell me if you see a building that looks like it used to be a pub. Because, you know, there's loads of them around here and up and down the UK. Buildings that used to be banks or pubs that are now fancy houses or whatever, right? Or Tesco's extras. And basically, almost right next door was a building that we thought could very much have been a pub at some time, right? So
Yeah.
I'm just going to share the picture. We might be totally wrong here. But I think when I tell you what happened, I think the fact that it was right next door to her house kind of makes sense. So now it's like I don't know if it was offices or flats, but it's obviously been renovated really recently and absolutely
Yeah, it's had an
gorgeously.
extension as well. You
Yeah.
can see the extension on it.
That's us in front of it, but
Not smiling.
not smiling because I told Emma, be warned, this isn't a happy location. But that's what we thought might be this pub, allegedly. So she buried the head in the stables of the nearby pub. So that's why I thought it makes sense that it's that location really close by, right? The pub was called the Hole in the Wall. And also it made me laugh thinking about pubs having stables. But I guess it makes sense because everyone was riding horses at the time, right?
Yeah,
so rather than
that's how they got
parks,
around. Yeah.
but it just made me laugh in my head a little bit because I needed some light relief from this fucking horrible dismemberment story, right? But then she carried on as if her employer had just gone away for a few days. And she even impersonated her employer in some cases. So for a good 2 weeks, this carried on. A couple of days after the murder, she also went to go visit some neighbors, some old neighbors in Hammersmith. Remember I told you she lived in Hammersmith for a while? This was a family called the Porters. She hadn't seen them, though, in 6 years. So they were probably like, what the fuck does she want? You know when people come out of the woodwork and you're like, what do you want? What do you want from me, right? She had the Gladstone bag with her, which we know what it contains. And she was also wearing Julia's silk clothes. Remember I told you that Julia had like dressed far more extravagantly than she could probably afford. No judgment there, Julia.
No, definitely not.
She made out that she had married someone called Mr. Thomas, so she was Mrs. Thomas, that she had a kid with him, i.e. her son John, and then he passed away, so she's a widow, and that she was living in Richmond because her aunt left her a house there. And I can't help but think these Porters must have been like, either she was really good at storytelling, i.e. lying, or I don't know in what context they would think that this relatively poor woman from Ireland who'd come over to do domestic work and spent loads of time in jail would have an aunt who has a house in Richmond. Because even at the time, it was fucking spendy there, you know? So, whatever. She took Mr. Porter and his son to the local pub, the Oxford and Cambridge Arms. So, do you remember this pub? because I definitely remember this pub. I used to go to it. It used to be on the little, you know, where when you're going from Chiswick to Hammersmith on Chiswick High Road into King Street, you know how it goes off in the one-way system and comes out on Hammersmith Broadway?
Yeah.
It was on that road. Past Secrets, the strip club, a little bit further.
Okay. Okay.
Either where the Stonemason's Arms is now or opposite that. I think opposite it. But I've been to this pub before because it only closed in 2006 and then it was demolished in 2010.
Sorry, I need to ask a question. When she moved in with Mrs. Thomas, I assume that you didn't mention it, but did her son also move in with them? And was her son there when she murdered her?
That I don't know, but her son is still with her. Yeah.
Okay,
The only
so he
thing,
lived
well,
there. So probably.
I presume he was because it only said, like everywhere I read, it only said that Sarah Creese looked after him while she was in prison. And I imagine that situation could be quite beneficial to both of them because we know that Mrs. Thomas isn't as wealthy as she's making out. So she could probably get away with paying Kate even less than you would normally pay domestic help if she was also giving her
food and board.
Yeah, if she was also doing that for her child, right? So
yeah.
So she then asked the porter's son to come to Richmond with her. And she asked him, just like,
God.
Either he's an idiot or she gave him some pennies and he just turned a blind eye. But she asked him to carry a very heavy wooden box and a bag to the center of Richmond Bridge. Hang on a second. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to share my screen again. Because we took a lovely picture by Richmond Bridge. That's Richmond Bridge.
Is that why you did that?
Yeah. Well, also because it's cute. But I think I have another picture of Richmond Bridge as well. Because, yeah, so this is a picture I took on another occasion from Richmond Bridge. I mean, it's such a beautiful area, isn't it? Like,
it is. It is.
Yeah, that's why it's so disconcerting hearing this horrible thing that's happened in such a gorgeous house in such a gorgeous location. But basically, actually, I'm going to bring up the screen again just for the telling of the story. She asked the porter's son to carry this heavy box to the middle of Richmond Bridge. Can you see my cursor?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the middle of Richmond Bridge, which is sort of between mine and Emma's head there. And then asked the son to walk off Richmond Bridge. I don't know whether he went that way or that way, left or right. But she asked him to sort of go and meet her at the end of the bridge. She needed a moment alone with these big heavy boxes, this heavy box in this bag. And then she went back to meet him at the end of the bridge, and she did not have the heavy box and the bag. So basically, she chucked it in the river. But she just needed a hand carrying it, because it is a fair distance from the house that we took pictures of to the river here. So she just needed someone strong to help her carry these things to the river. Pretended she needed a moment alone with them on the middle of the bridge. And then she returned without them. She's like, how do you justify that? Like, what story was she able to tell there to make him not go to the authorities right away, right? But anyways, in the meantime, people were starting to wonder where Julia was, Julia Thomas, because she was quite a socialite. She was quite socially active. So we're getting on to like 2 weeks now where she's kind of not been seen by anyone. And there were also rumors that Kate Webster had tried to sell lard to the publicans, pub owners, and the children and the neighbors. The lard, which we now know was
no.
Fat. I mean, this woman is enterprising. Like, she's a hustler, isn't she? So.
Oh, Jesus. It's like Sweeney Todd all over again.
We did a case, me and my sister, the soap maker of Correggio, where it was a woman who did exactly this. She used the fat. She used the fat to make soaps like Fight Club. And then she used the blood to flavor tea cakes and other biscuits and all sorts. I know.
I feel a bit sick. Like that is
I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna move on because yeah, that
okay,
makes me
good.
feel nauseous too. The day after, the very next day after Kate Webster tipped the pieces of Julia's body into the river, it was actually found 5 miles downstream in barns. At the same time, the foot, remember, which couldn't fit in this bag in this bonnet box, had been dumped in a rubbish heap in Twickenham.
Oh God.
I don't know why I say it like that. It's awful, but Twickenham is where we both live.
She got
So-
around then.
I know, because these distances, it's not like she had a little Kia Picanto to drive around in. So, yeah, she dumped the
Or a
foot.
bus to jump
Yeah.
on.
Maybe they did have buses though.
Maybe like carriages, horse-drawn buses.
But in any case, she had dumped the separate package with just the foot on a rubbish heap in Twickenham. And that was also found within days. The head, however, was never found. Remember that. So I told you that most of the body, except for the foot, which was found at Twickenham, and the head, which was never found, was washed up in barns. And so they had no idea who this corpse was. And remember, it had been boiled and all sorts, and this is the 1800s. So they really couldn't identify how long it had been in there, was man or woman or whatever. So the unidentified remains were buried in Barn Cemetery in an unmarked grave. But we've still got suspicion growing around Kate Webster. It was rumored that she was going around getting quotes for Julia Thomas's furniture, which, you know, maybe 1 or 2 pieces people would let slide, you know, like she's pawning or selling Julia's goods. Julia wants her to find quotes for her furniture because she needs to pay for this extravagant lifestyle that's well beyond her means. But she was literally like doing a house clearance, you know, getting quotes for a house clearance. And then one day, the neighbor, Mrs. Ives, noticed someone coming to collect the furniture, like all of the furniture. And she asked, because she was like, well, I've never heard that they're moving or whatever, you know? So she asked the person who's come to collect the furniture, who's given you the authority to do this? And he points to Kate Webster and says, Mrs. Thomas over there did.
Oh shit.
So it's quite obvious that Julia is impersonating Mrs. Thomas, her former employer, who she killed, in order to sell the furniture. So at that point, Mrs. Ives, the neighbor, knew that there was definitely something bad going on. And she was one of the people who informed the authorities, look, I think there's something dodgy. Can you have a little look into this? Now, out of curiosity, how much do you think she sold the furniture for? I'll tell you, because it's Victorian
no
money.
idea.
68 pounds. How much do you think that's worth in today's money?
Oh, it'd be thousands probably.
10,000 pounds.
Wow. So she had good furniture.
Yeah, she did. And she was like, literally, like I said, doing a house clearance. So that was a lot of money potentially for Kate to be able to fuck off with, right? But at this point, the authorities...
you would, right? You'd sell it and you'd run. You'd be like, yeah, I'm going to get found out. I need to get out of here. I'm running. But she obviously didn't.
Selling the furniture is not her biggest crime here. So I have less judgment for that than the murdering, dismembering.
No, but I mean, you would... Yeah, absolutely. But if you were going to do that and you had the equivalent of 10 grand, you would cut your losses and run at that point, right?
Mm-hmm. And again, this woman is a hustler. She's moved from country to country, from city to city. She's a survivor, you know, she's going to do what she's got to do, right?
Yeah.
But at this point, the authorities are onto her. And so she's cornered. And she knows when the furniture guy pointed her out, like she knew, oh, right, I'm in trouble here, right? Like I'm going to get busted. So what she did was she made a run for it. Come here. We've got someone wanting to join us. Come on, baby girl.
Come on, Lola. She said
around.
no.
She was like, no, I just wanted to raise your hopes up so that I could reject you and walk away. Well done.
Pied.
Totally pied. So knowing that she was cornered, Kate made a run for it, and she went back to Ireland and tried to stay at her uncle's house. But if she thought she was going to find freedom and solace there, then she was wrong, because she stupidly left a letter back at the house in Richmond with her address in Ireland on it. So, on the 29th of March, she was arrested. Let me go back and remind myself and also you. 4th of March is when, no, wait. Cut this out so that it makes it look like I know what fucking shit I'm talking about. 2nd of March is when the murder happened. 4th of March, she goes to visit the Porters in Hammersmith and gets the young Porter's son to help her basically dump the well, she goes to Hammersmith and asks him to come and help her dump the remains off the bridge. She doesn't phrase it like that. She says, I need some help moving some stuff from A to B. A being the house and B to being the middle of the bridge, never to be seen again. 19th of March, the unidentified remains are finally laid to rest in Barnes. 29th of March, Kate is arrested in Ireland. 2nd of July, 1879, she goes to court. So it happened quite quickly. They didn't fuck around back then, because it's not so much evidence to actually collect and stuff, I guess. And it was a 6-day trial at the Old Bailey. So I wanted to ask, did you ever do any work there, or go there, or do anything, or have any Old Bailey facts for us?
I don't. I mean, I used to walk past there to go to work every day. And I remember, because I grew up in the country and I was this little 21-year-old, my first city job, and I walked past the Old Bailey, and it was when all the IRA trials were happening. So, you know, a good 20 years ago. And it's the first time I'd ever seen, and like the guards had machine guns. And it was the first time I'd ever seen a machine gun in real life. And I was like, oh, fuck, welcome to London. But yeah. It's when there's like a high profile case going on there, it was batshit crazy. Like, I'll put that shit.
Same. I went to uni at King's, and so it's really close to the Old Bailey as well as the Royal Courts of Justice. And all of the big cases are heard there. I mean, there's a million smaller cases that we never hear about or whatever that go on there, obviously, but that's where a lot of the big cases, Johnny Depp defamation case was at the Courts of Justice, loads of them at the Old Bailey.
I've done loads at the Royal Courts of Justice, but not at the Old Bailey, because that was all criminal. Whereas at the Royal Courts, it's all civil.
Ooh, I didn't know that. This is why we got a lawyer. So this trial at the time was a big sensation, because remember, they didn't have Netflix, so they didn't have very much entertainment. So a lot of times,
it's like hangings, wasn't it? Everyone coming out for a good hanging.
Yeah, like part of me thinks, fuck, that's grim, but then part of me thinks, if you knew someone murdered people, you would give a little cheer. We basically did that the other day when we talked about how we weren't going to cry about Jeffrey Dahmer being killed.
Yes, that's true. But it's like that whole thing about you see an accident on the other side of the road, and if you say you don't slow down and have a look, you're fucking lying.
Yeah, exactly. So this one pulled in a lot of crowds. We have a system here, I think it's different in the States, where the public is normally granted access to trials. I mean, there's limited access, so you quite often have to queue.
Some, not all. Not all.
Yeah, not all. So the prosecution was led by Solicitor General Sir Hardinge Gifford. Do you know him?
Yeah, he's my dad.
Did you study him in your law degree? What did you even learn? And
not criminal.
All right. Oh yeah. Sorry, that's why you haven't heard of these guys. Kate Webster was criminal. Yeah. Kate Webster was defended by Warner Slay, and the judge was Mr. Justice Denman. Emma, is his first name Justice, or does that mean he was a judge?
That means he's a judge.
All right. I was like, well, if they called him Justice, he was born to be a judge.
No, he's a judge. I remember when I used to go to the Royal Courts of Justice to get shit done, They used to
That's
go
it. Getting shit done at the Royal Courts of Justice.
Yeah, you used to have to go in front of a master, and you literally had to call them master.
Ooh, sounds fun.
Yeah, no, they're all really
Speaking
old.
of which, you can go onto our website and apply to date either one of us or both of us.
Speaking of which,
Do you like that little segue?
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so do that. Also, if you don't want to date any of us, either of us, because we're fucking liabilities, you can also go onto the website and fill in some relationship/dating advice, or just give us general life advice. We fucking need it.
Yeah.
So, it was such a controversial case and so sensationalized at the time that the Crown Prince of Sweden, the future King Gustav V, not to be confused with King Gustav IV, even turned up on day
Gustav.
4.
Wow.
So what do we think Webster's defense was?
Oh, insanity. Some
No.
bullshit.
She claimed that a pub owner called John Church, and her former neighbor, Mr. Porter, whose son had helped her inadvertently get rid of some of the body, that it was them. But both of these men had strong alibis, so
What a
stupid.
bitch.
What an idiot. This guy, like,
He helped her.
Inadvertently entertained her popping up out of the blue after 6 years and boasting about how she's a rich widow, blah, blah, blah. And then she accuses him of murder. It's like, what?
Yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah. When they say that, like, no good deed goes unpunished, you know? The evidence that they had, and this confused me, the evidence they had included puzzle pieces stained with Julia's blood. I suppose that's proof that there was some kind of bloody incident that happened there, but this is the 1800s, so it's not like they could say whose blood
Could
it
have been
was.
anyone's blood. And what, like when she fell down the stairs? Like,
And I mean, it could have, I don't even know at the time if they could differentiate between human and animal blood. So I don't know. But this also leads to their other defense argument for Kate, and that is that all of the evidence is circumstantial, which in Victorian England, I don't know what other kind of evidence they would have. They're not going to have scientific fucking forensic evidence, are they? They're not going to have DNA profiles. So I imagine, unless you had someone that's like, I literally saw this person, if they had like a bunch of eyewitnesses that saw someone kill someone else right in front of all of their very eyes, I can't imagine what else they have except for circumstantial evidence in that time, right? Or maybe a confession.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I mean, but she confessed, right?
Well, she confesses later. She's not confessed. At the moment, currently, she's still saying she's innocent.
I'm just going to say, I really need to cough. So I'm going to...
All right, I'm going to say, why don't we take a little break at this point so that Emma can refill her Prosecco?
Yes, that as well. Mm-hmm.
Welcome back. So we have now got to the point where Kate Webster is on trial for the murder of Julia Thomas. And as we said, their defense first was that these 2 other guys did it, but they had strong alibis, so they had to rally and regroup, and then they claimed that all the evidence was circumstantial. Their next argument was that she loved her son, and so she would never do anything that would take her away from him. Apart from the 36 plus charges of larceny that she already had under her belt. So, and if you wondered how the public felt, whether they took the side of the underdog or the working class hero or whatever, they did not. They hated Kate Webster.
Oh.
So again, very led by what the media dictates. As we know, this happens today, right? But they were not impressed by her. They viewed her as like cold-hearted and unemotional and this, that, and the other. You know, like with when any woman does anything public, but especially a trial, her clothes were criticized, her demeanor was criticized, et cetera, et cetera. But the literal, almost literal nail in the coffin for Kate Webster was a hat maker, a bonnet maker to be exact, who said that Kate Webster told her a week before the murder that she had inherited property and jewelry from an aunt. Now, they interpreted this as premeditation, which we have discussed previously, you and I, is a key factor in charging someone with murder over manslaughter or something else. I'm not so sure about this because we already know that she was a creative storyteller, in quotation marks, you know, since the dawn of time, meaning she was a liar. But it does seem quite ominous, doesn't it? She's talking about inheriting a property and then suddenly she's got this house to herself, right?
I mean, you would though, wouldn't you? You'd be like, oh yeah, they're just sort of like setting it all up for when you have it all, and you'll go like, yeah, I inherited this from a rich aunt.
Yeah. But she was a bullshitter anyways. And she liked
Yeah.
to sort of, you know, chat the shit and tell people that she was, if not of a high status already, you know, getting there, right? The jury deliberated for an hour and a quarter before finding her guilty, which I always think, I've not been on a jury, have you?
No.
But you probably know more about the process than I do. But I imagine a certain amount of that time must be like paperwork and admin.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's not even like they're talking about it for that full hour and a quarter. At least half of that, like 45 minutes has got to be about like filling in the paperwork afterwards, after you make the decision. That's an incredibly short amount of time.
Yeah, it really is.
And I don't know in this case whether it had to be a unanimous decision or a majority decision or whatever, but in any case, there are cases where juries go deliberate for days and days and weeks. So an hour and a quarter is, yeah. At this point, so she's found guilty and they have to decide on her sentencing. The judge decides her sentencing. Execution is on the table because that is what was common for murderers in this country at the time. So she claims, what do you think she claims to avoid execution?
Is this the insanity part?
No.
That she's a mum? That she's a witch?
No, she claims she's pregnant.
Oh.
Yeah. So all of the men in the court, because obviously all of the decision makers in court at the time were male, they didn't know what to do about this. So one of them suggested using an old mechanism called a jury of matrons. Like, that sounds hot. Jury of matrons. And this is where they get a selection of women in the court, audience, if the secretary was female, whatever women they could find in the court are brought together to form a separate kind of mini jury. In this case, to decide, to decide on a specific issue. And in this case, to decide whether Kate Webster was pregnant or not.
Yeah, because there's no pregnancy tests at that point. There's nothing like that, is there?
Right. And if she's not showing yet. So the 12 women are selected from, again, like I said, people that have come to just attend the trial. They must have been like, oh my God, this is my lucky day. I'm up,
yeah.
12 women are sworn in, along with a surgeon who was male. They took Kate to a private room for an examination, which lasted but a few minutes. And they decided that Kate Webster, was not quick with child.
Sorry, how?
So there's a little bit of debate that went on about what that actually means. Because it might mean that they didn't deem her pregnant at all, or it might mean that she had not reached the stage of quickening, and fuck no, let me Google it. So they might have said she's pregnant.
Yeah.
She could be pregnant, but it's not reached the stage of quickening.
It's probably like the abortion limit, like whatever many weeks it is.
This is going to gross me out, isn't it?
Probably.
The stage of, so quickening is the stage of pregnancy when a mother first feels the fetus move.
Oh, okay.
So basically what they're saying is if she's pregnant, she's not very far advanced. So it's not enough. She's definitely not pregnant enough, I'm putting in quotation marks, to stave off this execution.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Kate Webster was then sentenced to death. She made an appeal to the Home Secretary at the time, someone called R.A. Cross. It was denied. At this point, when she's definitely going to be executed, she decides to confess. I don't know whether this is like Catholic guilt type situation. She knows she's going to meet her maker. So
Oh
she
yeah, you
now,
say, you know, you watch enough Father Brown, you know that it's not, doesn't matter whether you get hung, it's about your soul being cleansed, and you only get your
exactly.
soul cleansed if you confess.
I mean, I have a Catholic upbringing, so I know full well that what it means to be Catholic is that you can do whatever bad shit you want as long as you confess before you die. I got that right, huh?
Yeah.
Nailed it, right? I did
Yeah.
not misunderstand the assignment. So,
No.
so this is when she confesses, and this is when she says all of those things that I made you read out, you know, where she tells us what she first thought about Julia, how she killed Julia, and then what she did after. But she does first make a false confession in that, well, we think it's a false confession. I suppose there could be some element of truth, but she says that a man called Strong, who is the guy that she previously claimed could have been one of the fathers of her children.
She took his surname at some point, didn't she?
Yeah, and she used it as an alias. She claimed that he's the one that actually done the murder and she was just an accessory. But then she recanted this on the 28th of July and made a full confession the night before her execution. So again, whether this was because she knew it was happening and she wanted to cleanse her soul, or she thought, well, fuck it, I might as well at this point, whatever.
Did she get hung?
Yep. So 9 o'clock the next day at Wandsworth Prison, hangman William Marwood used this new technique he was experimenting with, which was the long drop. So,
oh my God.
Because, you know, there's a lot of discussion about whether, you know, some people die because of strangulation when they're hanged and other people die because of their neck breaking. If you die because of asphyxiation from being hanged, it takes a long time. So he'd been experimenting with this like instant death technique, which is having a longer rope.
I mean, good for him. Good for him. That's like, I mean, you're a hangman, but somebody's got to do it. And
as Letters for Cleo said in the 90s, you got to be cruel to be kind. So I'm literally taking off my tights. It's so hot in here. I'm taking off my tights. Sorry, everyone. Yeah, so he basically experimented with a longer noose, which meant that people that were hanged were more likely to have their necks snapped and die instantly, which I guess is a blessed relief.
Yeah, I mean, I have respect for him for that, like, because
I know, but who gets into the career of hangman?
Well, like I said, somebody's got to do it, and like, how many people hate their fucking jobs and just go in and do their jobs and go home? But he actually thought about it and thought, no, I don't want to see people suffer.
I mean, probably felt like he was a cog in the justice system. I imagine it's a job where they had very good benefits because how else do you get someone into that role, right? So he used this new long drop technique on Kate Webster. So in theory, presumably she died fairly quickly. And she was buried in an unmarked grave in one of the prison's exercise yards, which creeped me out because it's like, how many other fucking people are buried under the grounds?
There's like loads.
Like, did they just bury you in the ground afterwards where you basically fell?
Basically, there was a documentary on it not so long ago about the people, because it might have been a like, who do you think you are? Because I think one of the celebs like ancestors was in Wandsworth prison and was buried in the yard, and like obviously it's all completely unmarked, so you've got no idea where anybody is.
Creepy. So I didn't know they did this, but basically they raised the black flag above the prison, signaling that a death sentence had been carried out, and the people, because presumably not everyone could go and actually be in the prison to watch, the people cheered, those outside of the prison walls. An auction of Julia Thomas's property was held on the day after Webster's execution. Things worked fast in the olden days. I feel like
why can't we have that shit now?
I feel like this is all shit that would fucking take years.
Yeah, you try to buy a house through probate, you're there for fucking years.
Right? So people had literally gone to the house. If you feel bad for us going and taking a picture outside of this gorgeous house that happened to be a murder house, people at the time had gone to the house to look at it, but then they were taking souvenirs like pebbles from the garden.
Oh my God.
The copper pot, do you remember the copper?
Oh yeah. Oh God.
Which the body had been boiled in, sold for 5 shillings, which I'm sure is 100 million pounds or whatever these days. And then we were talking about the house prices, how you thought that one must be super cheap. I had a look at Zoopla because I was trying to see like what the house prices were, and they have no data for that specific house, which means it hasn't been bought or sold recently. But the house is in that street. It's a gorgeous street in Richmond, which for those of you who don't know, Richmond is always listed as one of the top 3 most expensive areas to live in London. It's on the river. The houses are fucking gorgeous. It's full of nice bars, restaurants, everything. It's just perfection. The houses in the street were worth more than 3 million, the ones that sold in 2015. And the way house prices work in London is absolutely fucking batshit crazy, but they double approximately every 10 years. Which is crazy because our salaries in London are not doubling every 10 years, are they? So
Absolutely not.
they're operating on a totally different plane of existence, house prices, to the one that the rest of us are living in. But that, to me, would tell me that that house would be like 4 or 5 million easy at this point.
Do you know how many bedrooms it is?
No, but I mean, presumably it's at least 2, because one for Julia, one for Kate.
Yeah.
All right, so we are going to fast forward a bit now. So we've had Kate confessing to the murder, executed, most of the body found. We're going to fast forward now 131 years to 2010.
Oh, wait, just 1 second before we do that. Sorry, now you must be able to hear my dog snoring in the background.
Do you know what?
I know
Really
we talked about it, but she's right there. She's like
Okay, wait, let's be quiet for a minute and see if we can hear. No.
Mabel, be louder.
Oh, I just heard a little snuffle. I'll tell you what, I need a video of her snoring so we can post it on our socials so that people believe that your dog snores.
Yeah, or that I actually have 2 dogs.
Yeah.
It's not just the weird noises that I make. But
yeah, so we're fast forwarding.
Wait, no, my quick question. Did she confess? Did they only link the body that they found that was in the unmarked grave once she had confessed? Is that how they put 2 and 2 together on that?
They did. So yeah. So once obviously she confessed, they understood everything. She gave very detailed confession, and yeah, they worked out that obviously that body that they found in Barnes must have been that of Julia Thomas.
But no head.
No head. Until 131 years later. Sir David Attenborough, nonetheless, owns this property. So Sir David Attenborough, for those of you who don't know, what the fuck? How do you not know our Lord and Savior,
Are you
Sir
living
David Attenborough?
in an alternative universe?
Are you living in that universe where house prices can go up that price, but no one else's wages does? Yeah. He is obviously responsible for the most amazing nature programs. We love him. He's a national treasure. I can't even think about the moment when he passes. But he is our local boy because he was born in Isleworth. And he has for much of his life, lived in the area, lived in Richmond and everything. He's involved in a bunch of like the local charities, preservation, conservation, all kinds of stuff in the area. He's a big supporter of raising awareness about the area, which used to be called Arcadia, which is like kind of the pastures, because this whole area of Richmond used to be the gardens of London, basically. It used to be where all the people in London had their summer homes, because it was a commutable distance in your horse and carriage to go to your country house along the river, whatever. And this is why we've got like amazing houses along the river. We've got like Orleans, Marble Hill, like fucking just gorgeous properties up and down. And yeah, and he, like us, loves the area so much, but has a bigger platform than us, than even us. And he owned this house and wanted to develop it, but preserve it, etc., etc. So in the 50s, he basically bought the house between the pub and the house that we're talking about. So I think that bigger property to the right, you know how
Okay.
when I showed you that it was the little part of the, there's like a big building with a littler house and a bigger part of the house. So I think he had that big house between the cottage and the hole in the wall pub, which is why I thought that building next to it, the one we took pictures in front of, must have been that old hole in the wall pub. And the hole in the wall pub being where Kate Webster buried Julia Thomas's head under the stables. This pub, by the way, closed in 2007 and was bought in 2009 by David as part of the redevelopment of this whole area. Workmen on the project found something. So as is very common, I've got a friend who's an archaeologist, and she says like most of the time they get called in because there's a construction, development, basement project situation going on, and something is found, and they have to call in archaeologists to work out if it's historically significant, if it's evidence in a crime, this, that, and the other. So archaeologists came in, and what do you think they find?
The head.
They find the head, yes. So this skull has been lost since 1879, and they found it 131 years later because Sir David Attenborough had bought the property and was redeveloping it. How bonkers is that?
He
is a god. But that is a fucking very weird chain of events, isn't it?
That really is, yeah.
So
it's weird that she never confessed to where she buried, like she confessed to everything else, so why not confess to where the head is?
Do you know what? Maybe she did and they couldn't find it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But let me just show you a little something, something. Just bear with me. It's not a great photo, but I get quite drunk, and so the buttons get smaller as I drink more. This is the skull.
Oh,
sorry, trigger warning, skull approaching. This is the skull. So that's what a 131-year-old skull that's been boiled looks like.
Yeah, she boiled it.
Yeah, I always purposely forget that bit. So carbon dating was done on the skull by the University of Edinburgh, and they found low collagen levels, which is consistent with a skull being boiled. And it was also, so interesting, found, I think, resting on some Victorian tiles. So by that, they could work out roughly when it had been buried. So they worked out that it was definitely of the time. It was in the area that I think Kate Webster had mentioned that she had buried the skull. So they knew it was somewhere around. But you know what? Maybe they didn't even bother looking for it, you know?
Maybe.
So finally, there's a sense of closure on this case in that they found all of the body parts, but they couldn't reunite the body. And even as a non-religious person, I like the idea of a body being either buried or cremated or kept together, right? It just feels really disrespectful for that not to be able to happen in some capacity. But the problem was that there was no real record of where this unidentified body was buried in Barnes Cemetery.
Oh, no.
Which tells me that even though they must have realized that unidentified body, very soon after, they must have known, oh, that body we buried is this Julia Thomas. Either they already couldn't find the grave or they didn't bother labeling it or whatever. But basically the head could never be reunited with the rest of the body, which is a bit sad.
Yeah,
not the worst thing that happened to this woman, obviously.
No, but still.
Yeah. So yeah, there you go. A case that only got fully resolved a good 131 years later by basically Sir David Attenborough solved the case, is how I'm going to sell the story.
All hail.
All hail Sir David Attenborough. Yes. What do you think of that?
I mean, it sucks, all of it, but...
You hate it, but fascinating, huh?
Yeah, I mean... She's batshit crazy.
Like an extreme hustler, I think.
Just went too far.
Like,
I mean, she probably would have got away with it if she said that she'd fallen down the stairs.
Maybe she had a better chance. Or if she wasn't so brazen, if she like
Yeah.
maybe took like some of the clothes and jewelry and fucked off or something, you know?
Yeah. That's the
But
thing, like the common theme here is just like the weird life choices that people make. Like in the last case that we talked about, like he makes some
the
batshit crazy.
bearded
Yeah.
fake beard bandit, it's where
Yeah.
you cannot work out if someone's extremely clever or extremely stupid.
But like they can be really clever in some aspects, but then in the other aspects, they're just so fucking stupid. It's not even funny.
Yeah,
It's just like, why would you say that? Like she really agitated me, so I choked her. Like you're just like, mate, they've just fallen down the stairs. Like
I know,
you could
it's
just
just
leave it at that.
absolutely bonkers. The only thing I was thinking about this though, like I organize a lot of events and stuff, and I am really fucking good at my job. Maybe I shouldn't say this, but I don't think anyone hiring me is listening to this. But when thinking about a big project where you have to do a lot of fucking shit, but then there's a small little element that you just drop the ball on, you forget to do this one basic thing or whatever. Is it like that?
Yeah.
You know? Like I'm a mastermind at this fucking shit, but I accidentally left a letter out with my fucking forwarding address in Ireland. Oh,
Yeah, I mean that, yes, but it's like the big decisions like, oh, she's just fallen down the stairs, so I will strangle her.
yeah. But she must
Like,
have,
how is that?
I don't know, but she must have been still alive after she fallen down the stairs.
So you'd call for help,
And
right?
maybe it's not even how it happened. I mean, you know, we're assuming that this confession is a full, genuine confession. It may or may not be. It's just, I don't know. We'll just never know. But I just really get intrigued by stories where it's local because there's that added like, oh my God,
Hmm.
I know that place, you know? Like we go to Richmond all the time because it's like 10-minute bus ride from where we live.
Yeah.
Gorgeous bars, restaurants. It's absolutely beautiful. In summer, everyone's drinking on the banks, on the river. It's just so nice. We were there
Yeah.
yesterday at Saffron Persian restaurant, which is amazing. Everyone go to there. And
Great
then we
food.
went and
Great
then we
food.
went for delicious ice cream at what's it called?
Is it
Amici?
Amoroso?
I was gonna say Amici.
I thought it was
Amaretto is a
Amaretto.
amaretto is a lovely drink.
It is. It was
But
something like that. We
yeah.
probably should know
Do you know
that.
what? I'm gonna say it began with A. If you Google sorbet, they had a lot of signature in their titles of things. I had a delicious pistachio ice cream and you had mint chocolate chip, as did I, and it was delicious. So that's what we do when we go to Richmond. It's not a place we associate with someone fucking killing their employer and dismembering them and boiling them and trying to sell their
Yeah.
fat for profit. Just not. No.
Again, with the weird decisions, it's just like it's not enough that I've killed them, but I have to boil their fucking body.
Yeah. And well, that I get if you think it's like a disposal issue. It's then trying to sell the fat. Like, are you trying to draw attention to yourself? You know?
Vile.
But that's what I think. Like,
Vile.
she's just hustler number one. She's clearly had a hard life where she's had to,
Opportunity here to make some money. I'm gonna sell some
yeah,
fat.
yeah,
Oh.
it's bonkers. So, talking about being opportunistic.
Again, nice segue in.
Dee and Emma do dating. So, for those of you who haven't heard, me and my sister, when she was my co-host, we used to do this thing where we used to end every episode so that it wasn't depressing. We used to end every episode with the People's Pulse, where we'd ask different questions of our audience, like favorite 80s music or whatever, guilty pleasure song to listen to, whatever. Me and Emma, we decided to mix it up a bit, and we decided, because we're both single ladies, RIP, Fat Man Scoop.
Oh,
I know. We decided to, well, we're giving you two options. You can go to our website and you can either fill in the form to give us dating and relationship advice, because Lord knows we need it, or You can apply to actually date us. I say actually, we won't be dating you, but we've got an application form to date us. So it's very profound. It asks you things like, what's in your fridge? Who is your favorite Ninja Turtle?
All important.
These are first date questions. We need to know this shit before we decide whether to take it any further. So we haven't yet really gone public with this, and yet we've still got some responses to go through. So here we go. We've got one response from Rhonda, my sister and former co-host. This is her dating advice. I'm gonna guess it's mainly aimed at me. Hit us with your best dating and relationship advice, exclamation mark, is the question. And she said, let your sister choose.
I mean, valid.
Do you know what? I will, but I suspect, despite the one good decision she made, which is her husband, Jim, I suspect she's not much better at picking with me. She just struck it lucky. So...
And I think it's also very different picking for you because you're quite different.
It's like how we always say, we know what we should and shouldn't do. We know what we would tell a friend in our situation. It's the opposite of what we actually end up doing, isn't it? Yeah. So then we've got our application forms. And you can apply to date Dee and or Emma. So
can I just also say, as it stands at the moment, you're the only one that's had an application, which I'm trying not to be offended by, but come on.
I have 2 applications. But in my defense,
and
I posted it on my socials. Did you post it on your socials?
No.
Okay. Well, Emma, one has to
my ex-husband. I'm linked to my ex-husband, so it's a bit awkward.
No, it's not. Block that shit.
Block him, yeah.
So we've had 2 responses. Yes, they both want to date me. I'm sorry, but everyone who wants to date Emma, she's a fucking catch. She's a catch. So I'm not going to be, just FYI, I'm not going to be reading out all of the answers to all of the questions for each of the applications, because obviously there's going to be millions of applications, but I'm just going to go through some of them. So James has applied to date me. He's 27.
Big up, James.
James. What's in your fridge? Protein shakes. Do you have royal blood? Do you have any royal blood? He says yes, in a jar.
Like it.
Favorite Ninja Turtle and why? He's put before my time.
27.
Fuck you, baby child.
27. I mean, also rude. Also stupid and rude, because everybody knows the Ninja Turtles. I don't care what age you are.
James likes to tease me for my age, so not surprised there. Some things you hate. He's put war. Okay. Valid. Yeah. Last time you cheated on a partner? Never. Last time you cheated on your taxes? I don't believe in taxes. Damn the man, James. Fuck the patriarchy. All right, James, that was a good application. What do we do with these applications? Do we give him a score out of 10, or do we like...
Oh, yeah, I think we should. Definitely. I think he gets a solid 7.
Oh, I was going to go higher. I was going to go 8.
7.5.
Okay, 7.5.
Down the middle.
Yeah. I'm not super invested in the scoring system, so yeah, we're not going to fight about it. Then we have Jess. So just FYI, you guys, you can fill in the application form if you seriously don't want to date us.
Wait. Is this Jess as in skating Jess?
Yeah.
And she applied to date you and not me.
I knew you were going to say that. Yes, she knows both of us.
I'm going to have words
about to be fair, you rejected her first because you dropped out of skating. Yeah. So you can't take
I got freaking whiplash. I'm not going to. And then Helen broke her fucking ankle and was in. I mean, skating is dangerous, man. Anyway.
Although I'm quite happy about this because she wants to date me. And what's in your fridge right now? Chocolate. And we all know how I feel about chocolate and things. So, favorite Ninja Turtle? Donatello. Obs. I think.
Oh
wait, what were you going to say?
He was the smart one.
Because I was going to say, I think most people our age, Donatello would be up there.
It was Raphael.
Raphael had this like moody, gothy vibe that I liked.
Michelangelo was just too, dude,
Yeah.
pizza.
I mean, Michelangelo is totally the guy I would have dated, but the Donatello is objectively the guy I know I should go for.
You should date. Yeah,
And
Michelangelo's
Raphael,
skater boy.
and Raphael is the moody magician that will just attract me because I'll be like, ooh, he's moody. It's like, no, he's got fucking clinical depression, D. He's
But what
got
about
mental health
Leonardo?
issues.
We're forgetting Leonardo here. Like Leonardo,
It's just
wasn't
the
he
kind
just
of,
he was the real nerdy one, right?
he's just the wet blanket that everyone forgets, like we just did. So yeah, Donatello. Perfect first date. You, me, drinks, pizza, booze. Yes, Jess. She read my mind.
Perfect. I'm still offended, but perfect.
Do you have any crazy exes? 110%. Are they crazy because of you? Hell yes. Weird fact about you. I can slap a bum really hard. I can confirm this. I can confirm this. What are you watching?
You can already confirm this? You've not even dated?
I just need to explain that she is a former roller derby player, skater, and coach, and she trains us in our roller skating. And so in that context, she has slapped my ass. Yes, it hurts. What are you watching on TV right now? CBBS. I'm gonna assume that's because she has kids.
Yeah, she's married with kids, just FYI, everybody.
Yeah. Last time you cheated on your taxes, she asks, in the UK or in Australia?
Hey, you get double taxed. I know this because I lived in Australia. You get double taxed. It's fucking bullshit.
That is bullshit. Oh, here you can get a visa real easy, but then we're gonna fuck you in the ass with taxes in 2 places. Fuck that shit. Anything else we should know about you? Anything you'd like to tell us? I'm really cool at skating. Yes, she is.
Oh, yeah, she's a fucking goddess at skating.
Thanks for the application, Jess, and well done on your fitness journey. I've been following it, and you're doing just so fucking amazing. She is an absolute legend.
But we are going to have words that she didn't choose to date both of us.
Emma, you dumped her first.
But still, it hurts my pride. I'm
literally paying her mortgage when I go to her classes. She has to say me. She has to say me.
I'm still going to have words with her. I'm actually going to message her on Instagram right now and be like, oi.
Okay, and then send me the exchange so I can post it. Okay. She's like Australian.
Does she listen to this Does she listen to this podcast?
I don't know. Let's see. Let's see. Jess, this is the test that we do. We did this with Puppy Barnaby. If you are listening to this, I want you to send me an emoji. What's your favorite emoji, Emma? I feel like it's the
fuck you one.
All right. If you're listening to this, Jess, you need to send me the fuck you emoji, okay? That is the emoji of the finger for those who are not watching.
When is this going to go out?
This episode will be on the 9th of October. Okay. We'll give her a week. If we haven't heard by the 16th of October, nothing will happen because I'm scared of her. Okay.
Yeah, no,
love you.
She'd win.
I know. This is like, why are you picking a fight with her? She can obliterate both of us.
Yeah, that is true. That is
and
very
look
true.
awesome doing it.
Yeah.
You know,
she is
my
awesome,
sister says that when I get angry, I look like Bambi having a seizure or a tantrum. So I've never even seen you angry. Does it even happen?
Yeah, it does. And I go fucking nuclear.
Well, I mean, I'm quite highly medicated, which I think is why I don't kick off as much. But when it does happen, it is like fucking banshee. You know what I mean? Where like everyone around me is just scared for the foreseeable future because they're like, whatever just happened there, we got to make sure that never happens again, right?
And add on top of that I train and fight. So like, it's not just words.
If anyone fucking did a thing to you, oh my God. Like when I was fighter D, it was always because someone did something to my sister or my friends.
Mm-hmm.
Then
Yeah.
I would honestly, I have bitten people, I have punched men twice my size, whatever. I'm not saying I came out well in this, and this isn't me boasting.
And
And
we don't
also,
condone violence.
we don't condone violence. This was in the 90s where we did not have as much awareness about protecting women in public spaces like gigs and clubs and this, that, and the other. So you were left on your own devices, you know? The times where I have had to physically defend myself and others, my friends, my sister, whatever, because they've literally been what we now know is sexually assaulted.
Mhm.
And then I've got kicked out of a club.
Yeah. I had a guy in a club, we're going off on a tangent, but I had a guy in a club just come up to me and grab both of my boobs.
Yeah.
And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? So do you know what I did? I grabbed his dick and I squeezed. I was like, fuck
Hard.
you. Fuck you.
Hard, I hope.
Yeah, of course. Like, there's no enjoyment there for him.
No.
You don't get to touch me. Fuck off.
No. And we did grow up and we were going out in a time where it was totally deemed acceptable to just,
Yeah.
oh, you like a girl? Just fucking
Yeah.
rub your cock against her on the dance floor and then touch her boobs and then, you know.
I always used to get asked at work what underwear I used to wear.
Yeah, totally okay, right?
Mhm.
Totally acceptable behavior. So, not condoning violence. No idea how we got on this topic, but don't cross us or nothing will happen until we get very mad and then we'll explode like a fucking volcano. Probably displacing that anger on something totally irrelevant.
Yeah.
And no one wants that to happen.
No. But date us.
Yeah, so apply to date us. I was editing the teaser about it, and it's like, it's going to be horrible for everyone involved. So if you want to get involved, oh, well.
I kind of feel like you should edit that whole lot out.
Might do. The problem also is that we've talked about this. You and I, we spoil each other.
Yeah, we do.
So trying to find someone who treats me better than Emma treats me is like, it's going to be impossible.
Likewise. Likewise. And who's like so good to go on holiday with and all of this? Like, no.
Yeah. Who holds me accountable at work, because we do accountability hours where we literally work together. Who helps me with my tanning regime. Who goes on holiday with me. Who puts up with my stupid shit. Who understands my dog and her weirdnesses.
Who listens to me go on and on and on about the same shit every fucking day.
Who calls me, we have our morning coffee together on WhatsApp. All of this shit. If you think you can do even a fraction as good as this, fill in the application form. Or if you just want to give us some funny content for our podcast, fill in the application form.
Also. But if you want to date D and you are lucky enough to stay overnight with her, just make sure you make her coffee in the morning. That's my one tip.
In the morning, fucking several times in the night. I wake up in the night to have coffee.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Coffee and wine. Chocolate wine, Rubus wine. Oh my God. Can you imagine if someone turned up on a first date and brought me some Rubus chocolate wine? Rubus chocolate wine! How many times do I have to say you to sponsor
Can you
me?
imagine if they made a coffee / Rubus chocolate wine? Like, there we're giving them ideas now.
Literally, we're actually very easy to please because the bar is so low. Oh,
yeah, definitely edit all this out.
Yeah, we're not selling ourselves. All right, I might leave it on the extended version for people who are genuinely interested in dating us. The rest of the population, yeah. All right, on that note, how low our bar is and how tragic our dating life is, on that note, I thought we were going to do this to like end on a high. Anyways, if you enjoy laughing at us, I suppose.
Yeah, they're laughing at us, not with us, but it's all good.
As long as we're spreading the joy. As long as we're spreading the joy. So,
murder, dating. Pretty much on a par. It's that tragic.
Almost equally tragic. All right, well, go to the website to fill in those application forms if you want to give us some advice or if you want to apply to date us.
When is all the new merch going to be available? Because we have some new super, super cool stuff.
Emma, It's already out there.
Amazing.
Amazing merch. I know. Call me if you want to give me a recording deal.
Whitney Houston, eat your heart out.
That's me, the next Whitney. New merch is out. We've got fucking socks. We've got leggings. We've got bags, gym bags. We've got magnets.
Oh, we've got the dog
Bandanas. If you're
chiefs, whatever
yeah,
they're called.
not nooses, not choking collars.
No.
What we're doing here is pet bandanas. This is pet bandanas. We've got all sorts of stuff. Mini skirts. I'm gonna get one of those for CrimeCon. So we have so much fun stuff. Go check it out. It's a new version of our logo because obviously we had to put Emma on it. So we put Emma's face on fucking everything. Yeah. So go check out the merch. We still have all of the old merch available. So if you like the previous designs, our Notorious Lesbian design, our Colin Sutton Fan Club design, all of that is still floating around on the Redbubble ether. Links are also available on our website, links in the show notes, links on the Instagram profile, links on Facebook, fucking links everywhere. Also, it's just switchbladesistersocialclub.com. It's easy to remember, guys. Everything's there. Events, if you want to come to our Murder on Tap events, if you want to work with either of us, because believe it or not, we're qualified professionals in our own field. So yeah, lots of things you can do if you want more of us. Right?
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better.
Well, I have had almost an entire bottle of chocolate wine. It always makes you think of a combination of chocolate rain and also cherry wine. You know how you don't have to take your clothes off to have a good time?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe I'll write a song about it for my new recording deal.
For your recording contract that you're going to get.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Emma, fucking love you. Emma, I love our sexy listeners. Do you love our sexy listeners?
I couldn't love them anymore. And
Do you know,
I mean, I will love them more if someone
applies to date you.
Date me. Yeah.
We've had loads of sweet comments. I've been sending them to you as and when they come in about people who are like,
Thank
oh,
you.
sad that, sad that Rhonda's going, but really excited to hear Emma. So hopefully you're all loving it. We've got Coventry Karen. We've got Claire, who lives up the road from both of us. We've had a bunch of other people who've made little comments. Good luck, liked our new posts about our new co-host. So, yeah, hope you're loving it as much as we are, because we love doing this for you guys.
Absolutely.
Bye, sexy listeners.
Bye, sexy listeners.
Bye, bye. Love you. Bye, bye, bye.